Le Morte d'Arthur by Sir Thomas Malory, Intro, and Summary of Books 1 through 4. Material adapted from CourseHero.com. Le Morte d'Arthur is divided into 8 books and 17 chapters. In it, Malory recounts what he calls a chronicle, a linear historical account in which the story moves chronologically and the author makes little attempt to explain the meaning of the events. Le Morte d'Arthur includes some events that may actually have happened, but it is largely fiction. Malory draws on several earlier Arthurian works, both English and French, in shaping his material. Geoffrey of Monmouth's History of the Kings of Britain and Chrétien de Troyes' cycle of Arthurian poems. But he also creates new plots, as well as providing more characterization than his sources. Le Morte d'Arthur, The Death of Arthur, is not Malory's original title for this work. It seems likely Malory called his story The Whole Book of King Arthur and of his Noble Knights of the Round Table, that when they were wholly together, there was ever 150. William Caxton, printer of the book's first edition, changed the title to something shorter and much narrower in scope, perhaps because Arthur's death symbolizes the dissolution of the idyllic England he created. Books 7 and 8 are far more powerful and novelistic than the first 6 books. One reason is that until Book 7, the story has been largely plot-driven. With the tale of Sir Lancelot and Queen Guinevere, it becomes character-driven as well, describing many inner conflicts, emotions, and interchanges in the characters. For instance, instead of describing Mordred as purely full of hate, Malory describes him first as unhappy. Okay, page 2 is a plot diagram to look at. Just note that the numbers of the events do not all correspond to the numbers of each book, but book 8 does begin at number 8 in the plot diagram. And you can see the Sangreal and number 7 is when the quest for the Holy Grail is introduced, which starts in book 6. This plot diagram only describes the first 12 events of the story to avoid spoilers for the final resolution. So you can see Arthur pulls the sword from the stone. He receives his sword Excalibur in the Rising action. He establishes the Round Table Fellowship, fights Emperor Lucius, and makes himself emperor. Lancelot and Guinevere begin falling in love. Sir Galahad is born. Most of the Round Table Knights leave to seek the Sangreal. Guinevere is sentenced to death. Lancelot rescues her. This is where book 8 starts. Guinevere is accused of adultery. Lancelot takes her away. Arthur and his army invade France, Lancelot's home. And then the climax is when Arthur is away, Mordred seizes the throne. And number 12, Gawain dies of an old wound Lancelot gave him. Okay, let's move into the summaries of books 1 through 4 out of the 8 books. Moving to page 3. Book 1, From the Marriage of King Uther unto King Arthur. The king of all England, Uther Pendragon, is so attracted to Igraine, the Duke of Tintagel's wife, that he enlists Merlin's help in seducing her. Merlin turns Uther into a perfect replica of the Duke. Shortly after the real Duke is killed, Uther visits Igraine, fools her, and conceives a child with her. As prearranged, Merlin takes away baby Arthur and places him with Sir Ector, whose biological son is named Sir Kay. Uther's death stirs up tremendous conflict over who will succeed him. At Merlin's suggestion, the Archbishop of Canterbury invites the lords of the realm to gather in London. He then causes a sword to be placed in a stone. Carved into the stone are the words, "Whoso pulleth out this sword of this stone and anvil is rightwise king, born of all England. None of the assembled lords can extricate the sword. To keep them occupied, a tournament is set up for New Year's Day. Sir Ector, Arthur's adoptive father, comes to the tournament accompanied by Kay and Arthur, who is now Kay's squire. When Kay loses his sword and sends Arthur to find him a new one, Arthur grabs the sword in the stone and brings it back. He is crowned King of England. Arthur proves his worth by subduing vast amounts of northern territory, as well as bringing Scotland and Wales under his control. With King Ban and King Bors, he successfully helps King Leodegrance win a war against King Royce. Leodegrance is the father of Guinevere, with whom Arthur falls in love. During this time, he also sleeps with Dame Margaise, the wife of King Lot, and Arthur's half-sister. Arthur doesn't know they're related. Margaise conceives a son who is named Mordred, whom Merlin foretells will destroy Arthur. Arthur tries to have Mordred killed, but fails. Merlin brings Arthur to the Lady of the Lake, who causes the sword Excalibur to rise out of the water. She tells Arthur she'll ask him to repay her with a gift later. Arthur marries Guinevere, although Merlin warns him this is a dangerous choice. Guinevere's father gives them the Round Table as a wedding present. The Round Table, which seats 150 knights, has 2 seats that must be kept empty. Merlin falls in love with one of the damosels of the Lady of the Lake, Nineveh. As Merlin has predicted, Nineveh traps him in a cave from which he'll never be able to escape. Book 2. The Noble Tale Betwixt King Arthur and Lucius, the Emperor of Rome. The Emperor Lucius of Rome sends messengers to Camelot to collect the tribute he wants Arthur to pay. Arthur, who knows his English ancestors were emperors, instead decides to go to war with Lucius and reclaim the empire that his elders before him have claimed. He leaves Camelot in the hands of Queen Guinevere and 2 of his best knights. Aboard the ship taking them to the continent, Arthur dreams about a fearsome battle between a dragon and a bear. A philosopher assures him the dream means he will prevail, which turns out to be true. He kills the foul giant of Genoa and goes on to kill Emperor Lucius, along with 100,000 Roman soldiers. Then he and his knights travel through France and Luxembourg into Italy. When they reach Rome, the Pope himself crowns Arthur as the new emperor. Book 3. A Noble Tale of Sir Lancelot du Lake. When Arthur returns from Rome, he holds many tournaments for his knights. Sir Lancelot du Lake is the best jouster by far, and his prowess catches Guinevere's attention. He becomes her favorite knight, and he loves her best of all the women he knows. Lancelot decides to seek adventure and takes his nephew, Sir Lionel, along with him. While Lancelot is sleeping, Lionel is trapped by 3 unknown knights, who throw him into a deep prison with many other knights. The same thing happens to Ector de Maris, Lancelot's brother. The prison is owned by Sir Tarquin, a powerful lord, and things look bleak for the captives. Meanwhile, 4 sorceress queens entrap Lancelot, bring him to a castle, and ask him to choose one of them as his paramour, or lover. He refuses to choose, and the queens leave him alone. The young woman who brings his meals promises to free him if he will oblige her by fighting in a tournament her father, King Bagdemagus, is holding. Lancelot agrees, and the next morning the damsel sets him free. On the appointed day, Lancelot arrives at the tournament location. He beats all his opponents and then rides on his way. After a great struggle, he manages to free his brother and nephew from Tarquin's prison. Soon afterward, he rescues a young woman who asks him why he doesn't choose a wife. Lancelot answers that he doesn't think knightly skills and marriage go together. More adventures follow. Lancelot kills 2 giants, brings a wounded knight back to health, and refuses to kiss a lady who's in love with him. She dies of grief within days. At one point, when he's swordless, he even manages to kill an opponent with a branch. He then returns to Camelot, where everyone marvels at his exploits. He's clearly the best knight in the world. Book 4, The Tale of Sir Gareth of Orkney. While Arthur and his knights are celebrating Pentecost in a castle near Wales, 2 men walk into the hall with a young man, Sir Gareth, leaning on their shoulders. He straightens up and asks Arthur for 3 gifts, the first being food and drink for a year. Arthur agrees. He takes the young man to the steward, Sir Kay, and asks Kay to look after him. Kay spitefully says he can tell the young man is not noble born. Otherwise, he would have arrived with armor and a horse. He gives him the nickname Beaumains, French for nice hands, and sends him to work in the kitchen. Beaumains does this for a year without complaining. He loves to watch jousting and is very athletic himself. Sir Lancelot and Sir Gawain recognize his native nobility, but Kay continues to be scornful. 1 year later, a young woman arrives at the castle and asks for help rescuing her sister, who is being held prisoner by the Knight of the Redlands. Since the damsel won't give her name or her sister's, Arthur refuses to release any of his knights. Beaumains comes forward and requests the 2 favors Arthur still owes him. He wants to help out the young woman, and he wants Lancelot to knight him. The king agrees, but the maiden is furious that a kitchen knave has been chosen to help her. To everyone's surprise, a servant arrives at the castle with a horse and armor for Beaumains. Beaumains reveals that his name is actually Gareth, and that he's Gawain's youngest brother. Lancelot knights him, and the young man and woman depart. The young woman is still angry at Beaumains. "Thou stinkest all of the kitchen," she tells him. But no matter how much she insults him, Beaumains refuses to abandon his quest. During the days that follow, he performs feat after feat of strength and bravery, but the lady continues to insult him. Finally, as they near the castle where her sister is being held, she apologizes. Turns out that her name is Lionette. Her sister is Lioness. Lionette and Gareth finally reach Castle Dangerous, where Lioness is being held. When he sees her looking out the window, Beaumains falls instantly in love. The Knight of the Redlands challenges him, and they fight fiercely for hours. Finally, the Red Knight concedes. Lionette takes Gareth to meet her sister Lioness. Unfortunately, Lioness orders Gareth to go and labor in worship for a year before she'll marry him. Back at Camelot, the knights Gareth defeated all arrive and surrender to King Arthur, explaining that Gareth bested them and sent them here. Arthur announces a forthcoming tournament, and Gareth beats everyone who matters. Arthur grants him permission to marry Dame Lioness. After the wedding, more jousts are held, but Arthur forbids Gareth to take part. Gareth's brother Gaheris marries Lionette. All is cheerful except for the fact that Sir Lamorak and Tristram suddenly leave court without explaining why. Stay tuned for summary document part 2, books 5 through 8 of the Morte d'Arthur by Sir Thomas Malory.